The gentleman yields. I now recognize Ms. Lee for the gentlelady from Florida for 5 minutes of testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Much has been said today by our colleagues across the aisle about this hearing and the purposes for it. It's been called a waste of time. It's been called a charade. It's been suggested that it's repetitive or unnecessary. To suggest that this hearing is any of those things, or to suggest that this hearing is tantamount to nothing more than a discussion of policy differences, is to fundamentally deny the seriousness, the scope, the scale of the catastrophe at our southern border, and the testimony of these witnesses who are here today and every witness that has come before them to testify in front of this committee about the seriousness of this crisis. We are here today because Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas has intentionally gone around and subverted the immigration laws of the United States of America. We are here today because Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas has repeatedly defied orders from courts directing him to cease and desist certain policies which he continues to utilize. We are here today because the Department of Homeland Security has defied inquiries from Congress trying to get to the bottom of the scope and the scale of this crisis. And we are here today because Secretary Mayorkas has defied congressional directives related to spending, congressional directives as to how money was supposed to be spent. We are here because there is an unchecked flood of illegal immigration at our southern border that is destroying not just border communities, but communities around our country. Today alone, we have heard extraordinary and compelling testimony about the utter lawlessness that is occurring in this administration. Attorney General Knudsen shared with us that he perceives a refusal to faithfully execute the laws of the United States and shared stories from his state about human trafficking and fentanyl trafficking and the devastation that has occurred because of our wide open southern border. Attorney General Drummond commented on the failure to enforce our laws and how that has affected his state. He also shared the extraordinary cost that it incurs at his state because we are not enforcing our laws in our border. And Attorney General Bailey touched on the issue of parole, which has become an absolute farce and workaround for following our laws. He's said perverting the plain text of the law. And indeed, that's exactly what is happening. In my state, Florida, we too have been forced to sue the Department of Homeland Security to attempt to achieve any semblance of lawful behavior and policy. United States District Court Judge Kent Wetherell, in an order directing that Secretary Mayorkas vacate the parole program, said, quote, Secretary Mayorkas has turned the southern border into a meaningless line in the sand and little more than a speed bump for aliens flooding into the country. With that backdrop, Attorney General Bailey, I'd like to turn your attention specifically to the question of parole authority. On July 26, 2023, before the House Judiciary Committee, Secretary Mayorkas testified the Department of Homeland Security has used our parole authority consistent with the law and consistent with past practices of different administrations. He also claimed that his department is using the parole authority consistent with the law still. In your opinion, is Secretary Mayorkas' implementation of the parole statute lawful, and is his implementation of this policy affecting the security of the United States?
His policy implementation is unlawful in violation of the plain text of the statute, thereby forcing a lawsuit from several like-minded state attorneys general because of the drastic, terrible harm that's occurring on the streets in our communities.
Attorney General Drummond, you shared some of the devastating effects that failure to secure our border is having on your state. In your opinion, are these policies affecting the security and safety of your state and of our country?
The laws of the Immigration and Nationality Act are clear and unequivocal, and they are not being upheld.
And Attorney General Knudsen, would you share your perspective on the harm to your state and our country that is being posed by failure to follow our laws?
1,700% increase in fentanyl deaths, confirmed state crime lab fentanyl deaths since 2019, Congresswoman. 11,000% increase in fentanyl seizures. Multiple 100% increase in human trafficking investigations since 2019. Those numbers speak for themselves.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.